on the 16th of August, Saturday, ready to convene the regular board meeting at Fort Clark Springs. Would we have a roll call?
Sure. Roberson,
Here.
Sweet,
Here.
Castle, here. Herman,
Here.
Hagan.
Here.
We have a quorum and all board members are present. Could Ms. Brown, I guess, would you do the invocation?
Lord, you have showered us here at Fort Clark with so many blessings. Let us be appreciative of those blessings. And thank this board for all the efforts they put forth on our behalf, that we all might work together for the benefit of Fort Clark Springs. Please watch over those overseas who are fighting for this country, those who are suffering for their religious beliefs. Bless those at home and each person here and the trials and tribulations they may be experiencing in their own lives. We ask all of these things in your name, Jesus Christ.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Well, I guess our first agenda item is announcements and correspondence.
I have a few of those. We have, first of all, I received a email from Ann Watt in Canada who said if the people who are speaking in the audience would identify themselves when they spoke, it would be helpful to those who are watching online. So while I can't say we can require you to do that, it would be nice if you would. Then we have complaint forms from James L. Baird, including a letter from him on Unit 14. His complaint concerns members, guests who do not live in Unit 14 taking shortcuts in motorized vehicle through Unit 14. To Ms. Stevens, reference the bylaws of Fort Clark Springs Association, Article 7, miscellaneous duties of the Director of Operation. Unit 14 has endured a myriad of past exclusion from events, perhaps the biggest being ignored in the repaving fiasco a few years ago. This is a much simpler complaint which I and others believe should be addressed. I discussed this with Mr. Bland a few years ago and was promised a response, but never received one. Okay, I didn't file a written complaint, and this should not require everyone in a unit to complain if the violation is one that should apply as a general condition of operating motorized vehicles on the fort. It does happen anywhere. The issue is I am sick and tired of members speeding down the middle of Days of Wallace Street, taking a shortcut to get to Fort Clark Road to proceed south to the golf course, or other units and doing the same thing in reverse to get to the Scales Road and head east. No one is complaining about guests coming here or bicycles or walkers using the mini and very uneven trail between Fort Clark Road and the end of the Jeez, don't make me start again. No way. It should be noted that the end of Days of Allah at this point is nowhere near either of the two paved legal entrances to Unit 14, both on Scales Roads. So what we have is members, guests living in units down Scales Road, disrespecting members, property owners in Unit 14 by refusing to properly continue down to the stop sign at Fort Clark Road and then turn right or left, depending which way they are headed. Long ago, there were 2 tall iron poles on the ground in Fort Clark Road entrance, presumably to do just that. Prevent motorized vehicles from entering there. There was still one bent there a few years ago, which has since been removed. At present, there are only signs on the green area announcing the responsibility of pet owners to clean up after their pets. I suggest that without installing 1 or 2 barriers, that another sign be placed announcing the prohibition of any motorized vehicle using that small trail, perhaps similar to the one on the walking track. This way, infractions could be monitored and enforced if necessary. This is not brain surgery, but the right thing to do. Please notice that unlike most other units, no street in Unit 14 runs through or connects to other units in its vicinity. He has another letter related to environmental layout conditions of the units, and maybe that should be directed to the architectural committee. I assume it probably was. Oh my word. He has a dangerous corner that he's complaining about, and I think that the architectural committee might want to look at that. Say more? Oh, thank
I've
you.
got one, but I'll just bring it up to the executive session because it makes a lot of names and a little profanity.
Sorry, I read that ahead of time to make sure I'd read it right, but it didn't come out that way. Thank you.
I guess we should do reading and approval of the minutes, July 19th, 2014.
I move to approve the minutes.
I second that motion.
We need to add Bill Herman's name in there. He wasn't called, he wasn't added on the roll call.
Oh, gee. I asked them to add mine and then they
Yeah,
took
just
Bill's
add
out.
this, just need to add Bill's name to it.
Sorry, Monique, I should have got that.
We all should have caught it. Actually, the minutes are very well written. Very well.
I have a couple of minor typos here, but I can show you those later.
No other discussion or comments? A vote to approve the minutes as with the corrections Bernadette noted. All in favor? The Director of Operations report.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning.
Morning.
Past 6 weeks have been, my head's been buried in the budget, trying to get everything together. So as far as continuation of cleaning up around the fort, that's still happening. I think the maintenance crew is finally getting a little bit on top of cleaning and caught up on the mowing. And during the planning of the budget, looking toward the new year, is how to get community events and bring the camaraderie back to our membership with, going back to the ideas of movie night and concerts and things of this nature. I'm looking really forward to working with Community Council. Alice and I met 2 weeks ago. So she knows I was buried in the middle of my numbers in my budget, so next couple of weeks we'll get back together and really come up with a game plan for Fort Clark Days and how we're going to marry up and make this a very successful event for the fort. And again, giving something for the community to come together on and maybe unite with our history and our celebration of our Fort Clark Days. A lot more golf tournaments are going to be planned for the upcoming year, continuing with our October Fest, which is going to be the 3rd year. I'm kind of excited about that. Hopefully we'll expand on that event and make it bigger and better. Along with our Thanksgiving tournament, we're going to try to do our best to get that golf course back to a black situation instead of a red situation. A lot more marketing and things of this nature. The Kris Kringle golf tournament, which will be Christmas time, and also the 2nd annual New Year's Eve or New Year's Day hangover tournament. So hopefully we'll be bringing in some new business to that golf course. Also in the planning is obviously a lot of things that we need to do around here repair-wise. Motel, hopefully we'll generate some money that we can finish remodeling on the Bullis Hall. We needed a lot more, we'll go into all the budget stuff probably the Monday when we do our workshop. But anyway, lots of planning. There's lots of things that need to be done. Golf course, obviously, I think we had a list of about $22,000 worth of stuff that we need out at the golf course to hopefully make it look a little better. But as you look at all these and number crunching and whatnot, you kind of realize there's not a lot of income coming in, no matter how much you want to plan and how much you need. It's kind of the bare minimums. But other than that, proud of the team for moving forward, making the place look good. Hopefully we can in the near future foreclose on some properties, move forward with these things, that we start cleaning up our community. Other than that, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
On our membership deal, we have foreclosures and it has 7 on them. Is that just memberships that we foreclosed on throughout the year?
No, I think we haven't foreclosed on anybody this year. So probably like we would like to do your 7 that we had in the.
That's what it's
Yes, sir.
referring to, okay.
Uh-huh.
Then I guess organizational reports, the architectural committee.
My name is Phyllis Giblin, and I'm a member of the Architect Committee. And I do want to thank Bill Herman, who is our board member that does attend our meetings. And we meet every Tuesday at 9 o'clock here in the boardroom. Applications were submitted and permits were granted in Unit 3 for a radio antenna. Our amateur radio people are really getting active in our community. Unit 14, a fence permit was granted. Unit 35, a back porch is going to be constructed. And in Unit 21, which is a specialty unit, a partial permit was granted for a sidewalk. And the other is being taken under consideration because it is within the historical community.
Golf.
The golf committee did meet on Wednesday. We had a quorum at the meeting. We did go over our last meeting notes, which was April, I believe, was the last time we had a full quorum. Some of the old business that we discussed was the gift certificates. You can now buy a gift certificate at the golf course. You can buy it with or without a card. So if you've got that person that's really hard to buy something for, you can go down and buy a gift certificate and give them to them. This is actually just a copy of what was given. And whoever's working the pro shop has to sign off on it, and then they have to check if they paid for or did not pay for a card. We also, as Jody mentioned, we're having a Labor Day tournament. That will be going to the golf course this afternoon. I've got flyers and a entry blank that's going to the golf course today. I'll get that down there. Debbie Isaacs, by the way. We are planning on having, the golf committee is helping with the Happy Cervantes tournament. He is maybe wanting to turn that tournament over to the board and to the golf committee. We need to discuss that a little further and to what extent he's actually want us to take it over. There's been some conversation brought up about us going to one of these programs that actually charges us so much for every hit that goes onto their website, and they give away our golf. And that's what it basically amounts to. We've got people that go out at 8 o'clock, we got people that go out at 9 o'clock, we got a 10 o'clock bunch, we got a 10:30 bunch, we got an 11 o'clock bunch, and I think the 1 o'clock bunch is now going at 12 or a little earlier. And the only places that are really open on our golf course is 4, 5, and 6 o'clock. The course closes at 6. So they can't get a golf cart after 6 anyhow. So why would we want to pay somebody to give away golf gear just to get somebody in? We can do that ourselves later on once we get going and we need that. But that's one of the perks of being on this golf course is because you do not have to have a tee time to go out. Just saying. We have and I've also got that. We have phone numbers, emails, addresses for over 91 golf courses. We have 265 women's addresses and 295 men's addresses from all around our area, people that have played this golf course. So we do have all of that in a computer program. Just to let people know that we are very up on what we're trying to do with the golf course and trying to bring in new people. One of the things we've also talked about last month was initiating a active military discount for anybody that's active military to come in on a certain day. I'm not sure what day that's going to be just yet, or what the discount's going to be, but we're going to try to bring in some of the military people with the discount, and hopefully that'll generate some income. We've also, on new business, we've instigated 2 work days, one on August the 25th, and that's to go out and spray the golf cart paths with weed killer, pick up trash, fill in the holes where the deer have actually been up there playing. And also on Monday, September the 8th, will be the week before the Happy Cervantes tournament. So when people are in playing this tournament, they can see that things have changed on the golf course. So we've got those, and we are looking for volunteers, and there will be a volunteer list down there today. I've got those made up also to take to the golf course. And then, of course, like Jody said, we have scheduled, we're working on the Oktoberfest, the Thanksgiving, and also the Christmas. There's some other things going on that we may want to try a family day, a discount for a family of 4 or more. It's kind of hard for a family to go out there if they're not members and pay $20-something a person to play. But if we can instigate a family day, maybe we can get some children and some wives and do this instead of the family going into Del Rio to do. So that's another thing we're looking at. And we've got some more things, but we're not quite there with those yet.
Do you guys happen to have a count of how many feet or miles of golf trails you got? And how many of them are bad to need, because we went out there, a lot of the trails are not
The trails
good.
are all bad. There's never
Right.
been no money put back into the trails, even though we pay a trail fee every year. But no, I'm sure there is a mileage thing, but
Well, I was wondering if we could work on maybe some sort of estimate on what it would take to fix them or repave them or put more cold patch on them, or ideas on how to do it, or something to that we could work on.
I think Domingo may know what it was gonna cost, because when they done the roads, somebody got an estimate of what they would cost to do that, and it just was not feasible. But I think Domingo may know those too.
He does. It was put in the budget as a wish list item, but it's too much. He can do it sections at a time.
That's right, if we could work on a little piece at a time,
But
maybe.
it takes
over-
money, and that's something we don't have a lot of.
And the less you do, the higher the cost is. The more you do, the cost goes down, so I do know that. But I know it was astronomical at the time they done those roads. We just couldn't afford it.
The figure that I was given the last time I heard was almost $100,000 to do the complete cart path system. So that's why it was called on the wish list. But actually, our members have gone out with cold asphalt and have repaired some of the areas. The reason we need to get the weeds out of there is because they come up and break up the asphalt. And the flooding that we had a month ago didn't help. It floated certain sections and broke them up. So it's something that we would like to do, but just don't have it right now.
The Preservation Committee?
When we're all young and we're back in action, so to speak, we had a meeting Wednesday. We approved certain out contracts to finish up the civic service center. And then to repair.
Could you maybe speak up or come up to the, because other people can't hear very well.
Well, gee.
Ooh, hush.
Well, the lady wrote it on the thing and the computer visitors couldn't hear it.
It's on.
It's on.
We had a meeting Wednesday, and we approved working on the service center. Their siding is bad. We're going to fix some of the rafters that come out. They'll have to be sistered in and stuff like that. We're going to send out bids on that. We're getting a list of 6. We've got a total of 6 contractors. I called up 4, and Bill Good called up 2 more. And once we got their okay, we'll put the package together, send out the contracts, and get the bid on that. We also approved work on Seminole Hall, the front of Seminole Hall. It would be too much money to do the whole building at one time, but we want to get the front of it look. We're going to repair the decking up on the upper deck. The area where the bats come in, that has to be sealed at night so the bats are out. Stabilize the railing up there. Replace the fascia on the front. The 2 corner posts, I think it's the east end, that have been patched and look terrible. We're going to have those replaced and have the whole front of the building painted in 4 colors. Check the windows, replace the screens, check the doors, prep the doors, get it worked on. Same thing, both of those contracts will go out in a package, and the contractors will have a option of bidding on 1 or 2, or both of the contracts. That's the contracts we're going to send out. We talked about the fire station, since maintenance has got the roof sealed on that, it doesn't leak anymore. That'll be at the next meeting. That's an old building. If we start working on it, we can get a plaque, reduce our taxes. The adult center is another one. Commissary. We got windows up there on the 3rd deck and 2nd deck that have holes and look outside and see the sky. They have to be repaired. Philip just got done telling me that maintenance is thinking about repairing it. But those buildings, the commissary especially, would have to be repaired with the mortar that matches the mortar that's there. Otherwise, we'll ruin our thing. We've got a lot of projects in the wind, and we can only do a certain amount. Like the fire station, we can't do it all at one time because every window in there is bad. But if we start on it, we can probably get a plaque, get the Historical Society to put in for a plaque and reduce our taxes. That's all I got from the Preservation Committee.
Has the fort and you guys discussed on where the wall fell down there over here?
I looked, yeah, wall. that wasn't talked about Wednesday, but I went down and walked that wall. It's my understanding that it's the preservation's obligation to repair that wall. It'll have to be repaired. It'll have to be done right this time. From what I'm looking at the wall, there was no seat pipes put in on the original where it fell down. The new section, they went back and they buried a slab of concrete and run rebar back and tied it into the new section that's got the padding. But that whole wall needs to have seat pipes put into it. And then if you walk along it and look and you see where the grass is growing out, that means that the water's coming through there and the dirt's there, so it's growing grass. That has to be repaired. The top of that wall needs to have rock replaced and sealed with concrete. And the rest of the wall needs to have seat pipes put in so we don't have a problem with the rest of the wall. I do know there's a slope there that was originally for drainage. The ground looks like it's supposed to be sloping there. But it's all grown up with grass and dirt and it needs to be redone, and that'll help out a little bit. And that'll be on the agenda for the next meeting. We'll have to find out who did the last work out here and make sure that seat pipes are put in. Otherwise, you're just wasting money. This will be the fourth time.
Yeah, like you said, we probably need to somehow figure in on going all the way down through there, right? Gradually.
Well, if you put seat pipes in, it'll run down to the drain that's already there.
Yeah.
And there's no seat pipes in the rest of that wall, and it won't take much but a rock. That sandstone is really soft. You cut a square hole, put a pipe in there, and mortar around it, and it'll take care of that problem. But we got to seal the top of it. We got to dig out the mortar, cut the grass growing it, remortar it, and then we have to check and see how many seat pipes got to be put in. You put one at the bottom, and you put one maybe a foot down from the top. But I'm not an engineer, so I don't know how many or what the specifications are. But we got to find that out because we don't want to have this as a continuous project. Right after we get a big rain.
Ruby, may I ask another question? Do you have a list for the first thing that you need is this? In other words,
have we prioritized
yes.
this? No, ma'am, we haven't.
Seminole Hall is our first priority.
Seminole Hall is
you made it sound like the service club was
the service club and Seminole Hall. The service club will be finished. Seminole Hall is the next priority.
Okay, you're working on service club.
Yeah, we're contracted.
I misunderstood. Thank you.
And then the other projects such as fire station, commissary building, adult center.
Almost everything needs to be done. What I'm asking for is could the board have a prioritized list from the committee, please?
No, we don't. I mean,
Could you get one, please? That's what I'm asking.
No,
Yes,
I
we
mean,
do, Garland. We've got one. We have a list.
we haven't prioritized it yet, though.
Well, it was submitted to us from Kenny County Historical Preservation Society, and they go around to all of our historical buildings and rate them.
Phyllis, I understand. I'm just saying.
And yes, we do.
I mean, it doesn't matter to me that you have one now. What I'm asking for is could the board have one in the future?
Sure.
Yeah, we can get you one once we prioritize. That's no problem.
Please, thank you.
Right.
What about, have you ever checked into getting grant money from the state?
I just talked to Allison Watkins. Told her I needed to talk to her after the meeting. To get a grant, you have to be a 501(c)(3), and we got Old Prairie Society, Historical Society, and Community Council all have 501(c). Hopefully, with the Community Council, we can get a working coalition that we can write a grant and matching cash, grants, but we don't have a 501(c)(3) now. And but we should be able to work with the other organizations that have 501(c)(3)s and get grants written so we can get money. If we can get $100,000 or $200,000, some people said put in for matching grants. Well, if you put in for matching grants, you don't have to come up with all that money at one time. You pay $10,000 a year, 10 years. The grant goes for. So anyway, yes, we're talking about getting grants and stuff like that.
Thank you.
A lot of the government grants don't apply to us because we're a private entity. So a lot of grants that you apply for we cannot get some of those because of this being a private property. So the grants you have to apply for have to come from a different avenue sometimes.
Community Council?
Good morning. My name is Allison Watkinson. I'm president of Community Council. I gave you all a written report as well above, but I'll go through that. Fort Clark Springs Community Council met last Saturday, August 9, 2014. We want to thank Directors Roby Roberson and Bill Herman for attending. Our memorandum of agreement for Fort Clark Days was given to Jody Stevens. Immediate concerns in our agreement were Fort Clark Days putting the insurance bill for 4 bundled events: Fort Clark Days and New Year's Eve, Valentine's Day, and the chili cook-off. Jody stated the Fort would only consider paying the insurance for the 2-day event, and the insurance for the other events would need to be paid for by the sponsoring organizations, since these would be considered fundraising events for those organizations, rather than, bringing all that money into Fort Clark Days. Another initial area of concern was a 60-40 split of funds raised by the event. Essentially, Fort Clark Springs Association would be seeking sponsorships for the event. They would be offering advertising opportunities to sponsors. Sponsors' contributions would pay the bills for the event. Fort Clark Springs Community Council would have opportunities to fundraise through raffle tickets, bake sale, etc. Therefore, should there be a 60-40 split? Ms. Stevens asked for a couple of weeks to look over the memorandum of agreement, and we would meet again to get additions, corrections, before taking the memorandum back to Fort Clark Springs Community Council for another vote in September. Event insurance issues were again brought to the forefront, and Roby indicated he would be meeting with the Fort's insurance agent this week so he could get a better understanding of the issues. Secretary Forrester is continuing to work on the legality of the hot ball and the bingo games. Mr. Giblin resigned as first vice president. He's been hired by Brackett ISD full-time as the director of maintenance department and does not feel as though he is able to appropriately commit himself to community council. We are seeking volunteers to carry out his term that will end January 2016. We voted to pursue offering another Halloween Ghostly Tour fundraising event this year. Last year's one-night event was a howling success, and we would like to offer this again this year. Hopefully I will be able to meet with David Fox this week to iron out the details so we can do this again. Tricia Taylor gave us a wonderful rundown on the Kinney County Chamber of Commerce and all of the upcoming events they are hoping to sponsor. She also reported on the events of the Kinney County Arts Council, and Fort Clark Springs Community Council has joined the chamber as a non-voting member. Members' comments included complimenting the webmaster on the Fort's webpage. Number 2, the length of the meeting and the agenda for Clark Springs Association Board of Directors, as well as the purpose and rights of the audience at the meeting. And 3, distributing the e-newsletter on a weekly basis. Community Council, along with other groups on the Fort, would be able to give much more timely information if the e-newsletter were once again weekly rather than a monthly publication. And then 2 items that are not included on your summary. We voted to give a $100 donation to the Feast of Sharing. And then we had originally intended to present the Building Restoration Committee with a check today, but we're going to postpone that until next month because I forgot to take a vote at the last meeting about not keeping our 40% split this year. We still have funds left in our checking account from last year for putting on the Fort Clark Days, and then we also have startup funds. So I'm not sure that keeping our 40% was a necessity, but I need to take that back to whoever's present at the September meeting. We've kind of briefly talked about it in the past. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 13th.
On the e-newsletter, there's been a lot of comments about having a more regular or less times between newsletters. Is there any reason we couldn't put out more of an e-newsletter?
What was happening was the information was redundant and things weren't getting sent to David on it was just the same information over and over, and it just seemed to be a lot more advantageous, just have a monthly calendar or monthly events as opposed to weekly, because there's not a lot of new stuff to be sending out.
It's not really clear to me what the deadlines are for getting something in there either.
Well, we send it out
No.
Wednesday morning when we send out the agenda. So normally if they're there by the Tuesday before the board meeting.
Okay, I don't think that's in the newsletter itself, is it?
I think he sends out a notification it's on the bottom, I think, of the newsletter. If you have information you would like on the next month newsletter, please contact me with such and such information.
I'll have to read it again.
Recycling?
Well, recycling is going along. We're almost ready to send out another load. Judy had been in contact with the people we work with on recycling, and they're going to have another electronics recycling done. So they asked us to participate. So hopefully by next Saturday, we'll have some Gaylords out for people who want to start bringing over electronic stuff. We made some pretty good money on that last time. And there will be a list of, which I have, what can and cannot be recycled in terms of electronics. And hopefully we'll be able to set that up, around different places on the fort so people will know. But hopefully we can get that started next week. And if we will accept electronics on the same days that the recycling center is open.
RV? We don't have anybody from the RV, they're all,
The RV committee doesn't meet until the winter time when they get back into town.
we used to have a deal from the staff about how occupancy of the RV park.
Well, that's because Shirley was, we haven't had that since Shirley was been over a year now, year and a half, due to the fact there's not any.
There's nobody at the RV
Right.
park. The next item is discussion and approval of the Fort Clark Springs insurance policy. Do we have a motion?
I will move that we discuss the insurance policy for the year 2013, 14, 15, excuse me.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. The motion was made by Sandy Hagan, seconded by Myrna Castle. Open for discussion?
We're gonna vote on that motion?
I guess, yeah. So, all in favor? All voting and approves?
Well, first of all, I'd like to let everybody in membership here in a way that because of our excellent workers' compensation experience history, we received a dividend check for $6,629. We haven't had any losses in the last 2 years. And and I'm a retired work comp insurance claim specialist, and that is astounding. So I think that Jody and Phil and everybody who's in charge of employees deserve credit for reinforcing our safety programs here at the fort. That's a lot of money in dividends.
The insurance agent explained their policy, and one of the comments has been about event insurance and how come we're having to charge for all that, and we haven't in the past. And the event insurance is a secondary layer of coverage. It's one more insulating layer between the accident and Fort Clark. And anything that doesn't happen on a regular basis on Fort Clark, or is put on by people that are not part of Fort Clark, should have that event coverage you suggested, and that protects the fort from anything happening and hitting their insurance policy. it's something we probably should have always been doing and haven't been. The fort was at risk with everything. If somebody fell down, broke their leg, they could sue the fort, even if it was on Fort Clark days or whatever happened. So if it's any event that's different than the fort usually sponsors, it's not a regular, like golf. Golf happens every day, all day long, so it's covered. But Fort Clark days, the fireworks, things like that are special events, and it brings in people that aren't normally on the fort, and they're not normally used to what's going on, so that's why that insurance rider was added, or it was suggested we buy that coverage a year ago, I guess. I think on the entities on the fort, like Fort Clark days, the fireworks thing, that's for the good of the community and the good of the fort. I think there the fort could mitigate that by actually donating the cost of the insurance to that entity. So, because the fort can't buy extra insurance for the Fort Clark days, and somebody else put it on. We could donate the money that it costs to whoever was putting the event on, then they could buy the insurance, and we would have made a donation to them so that they wouldn't have to pay the insurance. But for events that don't necessarily benefit the fort, I do feel that the people should pay for their own. They need to adhere to the policy we've got that they have to buy their event insurance. But generally, the insurance is, I think we've got a really good insurance deal, and the guy explained it pretty well. You never find the right page at the right time. If you divide the insurance out, we're paying $163 and change for insurance. That comes down to the 1,800 paying members.
$163,000
Oh,
in
yeah,
change, not
$163.
$163. I love that in policy myself.
Anyway, it comes down, if you divide it by the paying members on the fort, that comes down to 23 cents a day is what it costs us for insurance. That's not a lot of money by any means. And we've got, I mean, we have a lot of risk. Therefore, I think that, you know, those few events that benefit the fort could make a donation for the amount their insurance is. The board would have to approve that, but that would help because the fort benefits from those events.
I have one question on it. When someone rents a building here and we tell them it's so much for insurance, do we collect the money and buy the insurance, or does the person renting the building have to go out and get their own insurance? How's that work?
The person that's running the building has to go out and get their insurance. We have a number, they can call our broker, or they can research it on their own and get that additional policy.
This guy, I wasn't real clear about that, how we do that.
And we did have an addition that we talked about. We're covered for employee fraud and illegal transfer of funds up to a given amount, but we thought we should probably raise it. I guess this needs to be a second item, really.
Well, it's part of the entire policy.
Yeah, we've got it before.
Yeah, we wanted to raise the coverage, and the guy couldn't give us the exact number at the time, but it raises the coverage by employee fraud or illegal transfer, or somebody hacks into the fort's account. They could steal all the money the fort's got, or your checking account, and we would only be covered for part of it, and we thought it should be covered for all of it possibly. That was the only addition and change we made, I think.
Right, because our accounts run over $500,000 on a regular basis. And we wouldn't want a computer hacker to get into those accounts and empty them, because really there's no way to get that money totally back again. So this particular premium increase is for computer fraud. And it adds $912 to the total premium coverage. But you're protecting $500,000 or more in assets. And it's actually probably one of the more important things in the chances of a hacker attacking the fort's accounts and getting most of the money is a lot higher than an employee going in and doing it because of our checks and balances.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, do we want to vote on approving the policy? And do we want to include this in there or approve this separately as a rider? Because we've still got it.
I think you could make the motion so that it would be included.
Right, that's what I would say.
Okay, well then I will move that we agree to this insurance policy with the additional endorsement of computer fraud.
I'd like you to include the amount that it costs, the total amount.
All right, the amount of the, okay, I will rephrase the, where's our total? Okay. I will move that we approve the insurance policy for 14-215 at $163,346, plus the addition of computer fraud, adding an additional $912 to that premium, which would be somebody who's good at math.
$160.
Okay. 912-21846. $164,812.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Vote carries unanimously. Number 9 would be discussion and approval of the Fort Clark Springs bylaws, elections to send to the attorney.
The committee worked on this for quite a while. As it stands now, we'd like it to be submitted as it was submitted to, finally to Jody, rather than with the addition of returning the undeliverables to the fort. I did discuss this with Jody. Her reasons are reasonable, but the committee would like it to be sent to the legal as it was, please. If you want to fight that again, you can do it after it comes back.
Are you saying as is in our package?
No, as it was in the last one that I submitted to all of you and to Jody. She has added, return the ballots to the undeliverable one to the fort. And
No, that's not in there.
I'm sorry, did I get it wrong?
No, it's in here. It's in here.
I didn't add anything.
The one I have in the packet includes ballots returned as undeliverable shall be delivered to the Director of Operations after the annual
Yes,
meeting.
and that's what I'm asking
Yeah, but
the,
it's after the annual March
It says
meeting.
after the annual meeting, right, okay.
still
You're
saying, that isn't what I submitted to all of you and to Jody. The
Oh.
committee would like it to remain as it was, which was for it to remain with the auditing firm.
Who
Okay.
submitted this one?
And I'm not quite sure, and the reason for that is,
The possibility of fraud and so forth and so on.
if it comes back to the fort after the March meeting, the results have already been announced. I don't understand where the fraud would come in.
I think there's somebody in the audience that can answer that if Roby will.
Yes, Mr. Sullivan.
The problem isn't with that particular election. My name's Dan Sullivan. The problem is that would be a list that could affect the next election, the next cycle. If someone were to get their hands on that list and they know all these people never get their mail delivered, the ballots are never delivered to them, that would be a temptation to use those names and lists to submit invalid or forged ballots. And so it shouldn't be. And I would also like to mention that at last month's meeting, there was a motion made by Ms. Hagan, and it was stated that the revisions to the Article 4, the election bylaws, would be done by the ad hoc committee and then immediately sent to the attorneys to make sure they were legally compliant. And that motion was passed unanimously by your board. There was nothing said that it was supposed to come back to the board to gerrymander it or change it around, change this and change that, and then send it off. That wasn't the motion. The motion was to be sent immediately from the committee to the attorneys.
Okay, well, it was my understanding that also the reason this went to committee was to have the individuals on that committee bring that part of the statute under 209, which they did not do. Secondly, it was also our understanding that the committee would be formed of various representation from the fort. And if you will recall for the, I believe it was the architectural committee, we required that people have a chance to sign up for that committee. And as far as this thing, there were only 2 members on that committee, and it was not opened up to the general membership on the fort to allow them to give their input, as well as just the 2 people, you and the other individual, with Myrna's oversight to do that. So and there also was nothing in the motion that said that the board could not give its input to it. So, but first of all, I was more interested in the fraud aspect. Is there some history on the fort that this has happened in the past?
Not that I'm aware of necessarily, but I am aware of people that have concerns about that, and this will alleviate those concerns. And there's no possibility that it's a clean deal.
Okay, you do realize that we do need those lists of returned mail to take those people off the next mailing list. Otherwise, every time we send something out to the general membership, we waste postage, paper, envelopes, and time sending it to bad addresses. Is that part of your concern, or?
Well, it's my understanding that if they are on the membership list as members, then you are required to send them a ballot. You can't just pull them off. You have to get rid of the membership before you can do that.
But I
That's correct.
I was under the impression or understood that you need to send the mailings out, yes, but you can keep track of them after a certain amount of time on official paperwork that is sent from the fort, that at that time you can then take these people off the list.
You'd have to cite your source for that. For me,
I
I've never read that
I
anywhere.
understand what you're saying, but this is what I was told, that you can, you say, for 3 years, we send out, anyway, we send out mail, to the membership, and for 3 years, Fred Smith comes back as undeliverable, okay? Then at that time, we could take him off the list because at that point, you would assume, or could assume, or whatever, he doesn't exist anymore.
So for how many years so far do you have the list of undeliverables?
I
Can
think.
I answer that?
Sure.
If anybody was gonna be dishonest, we already know which ones are the bad addresses. So you'd have it from the get-go. Because we've got 7 years of audits from the auditing firm with the bad addresses on it. So if we're already gonna be dishonest, we'd already do that.
Then you should be able to take them off the list now, right?
If you could, if you wanted to, because we have you had about 250 that are bad addresses. So every coupon, every vote, we send it out, 250. Anybody who gets a mailing list to run for the board, the upcoming, you had a whole list of bad addresses. We're still gonna run that report, we're still gonna send it
I think
regardless.
$300 worth, I think. That's what I paid for my list. First off, the ad hoc committee is appointed, chairman is appointed by Myrna, she was put in charge. The ad hoc committee, Dan Sullivan, they choose who is on the committee. There's no,
Carolyn will block.
But it was
Right.
also told that they would have let people know that wanted to attend, they could attend, and nobody knew anything when they met.
Well, you better check the audio-visual recording of the meeting, because that was not said here.
It was
Announced
stated.
here
It was-
that anybody that
It
wanted
was
to be
stated.
involved could.
If somebody wanted to come and see what you were doing, it was stated
It
on the
was
video.
stated.
Yeah.
It was.
And
Well,
I
who
bel-
knew? Who knew when you met?
I believe
Should've
Myrna,
asked. You asked?
When, no.
We had
Well,
that
you
post
want
for
to
the
go around knocking every door and say we're
Bring it in,
meeting?
bring it in.
And you've got email addresses, there's a
I
bulletin
don't
board
have
out front.
email addresses.
Excuse me,
That was gonna be done.
Excuse me?
Done by the
That's-
administration office.
I believe Ms. Casa did ask for members and state the date of the first meeting here.
I did. Also, if you read the motion that Sandy made on page 3 of last month's minutes, it is as Dan has stated. The problem with all of this is an ad hoc committee. There isn't time to post it and really no reason, because it's a committee that comes together because of their interest. Dan had been working on this for 2 months before it was finally brought to the board, but he had brought things to the board individually before, so it wasn't new, and Dan had been working on it, so he really made the obvious appointment of a chair.
And the ad hoc committee was supposed to create the list and then have it sent to the attorneys, then it would come back before the board for discussion and approval.
But the ad hoc committee was also responsible for bringing the election statutes under 209, which they did not do.
No, they weren't. That's why it's going to the lawyer.
That
was the
No,
whole reason
no.
of sending it to the attorneys, you're concerned.
And then we would have to send it
209.
back again. And
No, I don't
this is
think-
also, ad hoc committee was also an advisory committee. Now, we can send both versions. We're trying to save money. Attorneys are expensive. And by sending a document that clearly had included things that are not under 209, sending them back again, the board making revisions, then we have to send them back to the attorney again. And Myrna was also head of that committee, and she was involved in some of the changes.
I did not head that committee. I sat in on that committee. I did some typing after everybody, but it did come to the board, and you did have a chance to put in your...
And it did.
Yes.
We did.
And the committee then again argued against the section of bringing the undeliverables back to the fort. Whether or not I agree with that, it is something the committee requested that be in here. I don't think that there are a lot of changes that the board wants to make after it comes back, because you've already had a chance to put in your changes.
That's true. And I did not make that change there, and I don't know
No,
where
I
that came
understand, and I understand why Jody did it, because it
Jody
makes
said-
all
no,
kinds...
Jody didn't make the change
All I
either.
did is put that there was an envelope that all of our election.
I'm sorry.
ballots-
I don't know how it got there then. That's
I didn't add
okay.
anything to this.
That's what.
Oh, I thought that you or Monique might have changed that particular section.
The only thing that I brought to attention that was not in there.
Maybe you kept a section, I mean, I sent it more than once, I'm sorry.
Maybe we did the wrong one.
Yeah, it could have been.
But the only thing we were making a change to that was not in there, which is the only one thing that keeps a person running for the board, is a felony, which is not in this
Right,
proposed bylaw
right.
change.
We did leave it out. We forgot moral turpitude too.
I was gonna say, that was the other thing. There was 2 things, right, that should be in there.
Bigger concern that I actually have with the revised, from the board, revised edition that was sent back was the one regarding directors' relatives being employees of the fort. And that was changed from what we did, and that was also attempted with the amendment resolution several months ago, 3-4 months ago. and
But
was,
Dan, we took it out.
Blocked.
We took it out because you noticed that some things
But I want to know
get
if
by
this new
me.
version, Mr. Herman just said that his still had the one about turning over the list of undeliverable ballots to the administration.
No, believe me,
Does that also include?
No.
No, it says,
No.
number 8, shall not be related to any administrative level employed by blood, consanguinity, within the 3rd degree, or by marriage or
No, it doesn't.
cohabitation.
Let's see, well, if the
It's,
administration.
you do have,
was the key.
you do have the wrong version. I gave you the date of the right version. I will give it to you
This is the one
again.
that we have in our packet.
Yeah.
That's all, you know, that's.
That's
all we
my
can go by
fault.
at this time, is what we will get.
That's
not-
my
I
fault.
understand, but that's not the correct one, that's not the last one.
Yes, that's my fault.
We look at
Okay,
it as different
this is
times.
the one we were given, Dan, and
Okay,
I'll be
fine.
honest with you, I didn't even read it because it was a final.
Sandy,
Little change, a couple of words that have a huge impact
Sure.
on our whole association and organization.
There were only 2 things about the when I read the initial one, the final one I didn't read because I thought it was the one I had read before. But the only thing we're concerned about, in which the attorney is likely going to add, is, again, the felony section.
That's fine.
Okay, and then the only other two things that I saw that do not appear to conform, and that's why the attorneys, no one's gonna change it, is the age and the requirement that you be a member for a year, because the new law states that you cannot put any restrictions on people who want to run for the board
I
except that
understand
they're a
it. As a
member.
matter of fact, I did not want that requirement to be a member for a year.
I agree with
Why the
you.
initial ones I did had taken that out. I
But
don't
this,
have a problem
this
with that.
really does not require you to be a member for a year. You can be a member for 6 months and run for the board.
What's the focus, discussion of mailing issues, or are we going off on a tangent?
Yeah, we're kind of off on a tangent.
The whole point of this, the ad hoc committee was supposed to draft something and send it to the lawyers. Nobody else was supposed to mess with it. It's supposed to be a unilateral, bilateral members' input. If the board members do or don't like it, it doesn't matter till it comes back to the board. Then we have an opportunity to discuss and change as much as we want. Other than that, why have an ad hoc committee? If they have to work under the direction of the board of directors, there's no ad hoc committee.
Well, I think
The
they did.
idea was to have an individual board member, a group of board members, create an executive committee that gave them the power to appoint ad hoc committees from the membership that are free to operate without the auspices of the board leaning over their shoulder, and come back to the board with what the members want in there. Now it's up to the board. They can change it at any point in time. It's not a written law until the board approves it. And it has to be read in front of the public before the board can approve it. So this changing stuff by somebody that wasn't on the ad hoc committee is pretty dubious. I mean, that's a sneaky
excuse me.
looking deal.
Excuse me.
Don't say
Don't
that.
say
It's not, that's not
Don't
what
say
happened.
that.
Please, that's not what happened. The wrong version, which is my fault, I was not clear on which version should be included in here, was included in here. There were several versions going back and forth and back and forth. The last one that I said put in, I gave a date and time even, I think it was at night. So it's my fault that I didn't catch this before we came to the meeting, and I apologize.
Okay, if I may, if this is not the one we're voting on in this book, I'm not gonna vote on it.
For review.
Go ahead, Garland.
You're talking about sending this document out to attorney for review.
That's correct.
Now, if it comes back and the attorney says, I'm sorry, none of it's valid, or you gotta get rid of this, this, and this, is that what you're looking for the attorney to do to make it comply with the new HOA laws?
That's my intention, yes. Mr. Bellman?
My name is Dean Bauman. You're missing something here. Both in the HOA 209 and the Business Organizations Code says that your bylaws must adhere to the Articles of Incorporation. The Articles of Incorporation rule over the bylaws.
And the
Yes,
state
and
law
that's-
rules over our bylaws.
That's one of
Pardon?
And the state law supersedes our bylaws and our governing
Yes.
documents.
Yes, the hierarchy of documents
Yes.
are federal, state, declaration,
That's right.
Articles of Incorporation, bylaws.
That's right.
Mr. Bauman, we did make it, we did make sure that it wasn't against the declarations. I'll get it eventually.
It's
Sorry.
not declaration, it's Articles of Incorporation.
Excuse me, Articles of Incorporation. We did check that.
Well, at any rate, the ad hoc committee was supposed to present something to the attorneys, then it would come back to the board.
Okay, so.
I believe this entire train of thought started with, is it okay for the admin office to get a list of bad undeliverable addresses? Yes or no question. An ad hoc committee, post hoc after the fact. The ad hoc came up with facts, presented facts, job over. Can Jody get a copy of the bad addresses from the election? Was the start of the discussion. Where did we go from there?
I'm sorry because it was my fault that I submitted
Apologies.
apparently the wrong one. I do have the right one. I would like it to be voted on. I apologize.
Myrna, are you going to send that on then?
This one?
The correct one, the one that you say is,
I can't. I can't do that without board approval.
Well, we don't have a copy of it, so we don't know.
I understand you do have a copy of it, it's just not the one that's in there.
I think by our previous motion, it was clear that Myrna should be able to send that to the attorneys when it cleared the ad hoc.
It's fine.
What I'm asking is, what is she sending? We don't have a corrected copy of what she's sending, is all I'm asking.
Okay, we're always making an issue about clarity and transparency and whatever, but you're asking us to okay something that we haven't seen a final copy of, and
I'm
not because of
not
anybody here.
suggesting that you do that.
And if you are saying that it should have gone past us without us seeing it in the first place, then we might as well just send it
I
on.
think we're beyond that. Right now, the problem is you do not have the accurate one in the
That's
board
true,
packet.
we do not have
So there can be no vote on approving it. And again, it's my fault because I was not carefully reading what was there. I caught one, but I did not catch the other. And it was my own copy that I sent out, and people reacted to it. Then I sent another copy out, and finally there was a copy at 11 o'clock at night. So it is again my fault for not catching it in here. So please.
However, Myrna had the approval of the board when we created the motion and approved it last month, that when she got what she felt was a resolved, a new bylaw resolution, she was going to then send it to the attorneys to look at. Then it would come back before the board. Nothing would be approved by the board prior to it coming back from the attorneys.
Well, okay, then I will make a motion that Myrna send her final copy, sight unseen by the rest of the board, directly to the attorney.
We
And
don't
that-
have to do that motion. It was already made last month, and here's the original copy that I
But
got.
it's now up, it's now been brought forward, and a vote has been requested of us. So I am making the motion that Myrna send her corrected copy directly to the attorney so that he can review it. With the caveat that when it comes back, the board can make changes pursuant to the attorney's request. And let's just get this off this table because we have other stuff to do. So I will repeat my motion. I move that Myrna send directly to the attorneys her corrected copy,
Final copy.
her corrected final copy to the attorneys, and the board will review it when it comes back. And then we can move this piece of business forward.
I second the motion.
Discussion.
We've already discussed it.
This final copy, does it have the part in there about eligibility? You couldn't be a convicted felon and all that?
No.
It needs to be there before you send it.
Well, I don't think it needs to be there before we send it, because they're going to put it in.
And we can see it.
I bet they do. We can fix it when it comes back. That was the.
Right, that's the whole idea, is no matter what they send, the board still has the right and duty to look it over prior to it being passed.
And all your does it cost you money
Yes.
to do this stuff?
Oh,
When you
yeah.
already know it's wrong?
That was the intent of the ad hoc committee and the whole thing, to straighten it out best they could and put in there the language they wanted to. Myrna still has that ability and option. The ad hoc committee still does.
No, it's been disbanded. Okay, but I have a motion before it's been seconded.
I did call the question.
No further discussion. All in favor of approving Myrna sending her final draft of the bylaw changes for the voting qualifications and election qualifications to the attorneys? Motion made by Sandy Hagan and seconded by Myrna. All in favor? All members voted for approval. The next is discussion and approval, statement of authority to transfer real property. Do we have a motion for this item, or?
You make a motion to discuss the statement of transfer of real property.
We have a motion?
I'll second it for discussion.
Motion seconded by Myrna Castle. To start with, this article refers to the wrong section of the Business Organization Code. So I don't,
Sandy rewrote this, and
That's only section D.
Yeah.
Actually, this document was prepared by Tully, wasn't it? This document was initially prepared by an attorney to respond to the title company's request that we have someone or someones available to handle transfers for foreclosed properties. And we ran into a difficulty because some of us, not all of us, but some of us thought that section B was extending additional authority to sell property to the president of the board, the DO, and other board members. So this has been around for a couple of times and we've never done anything to it to change it. So I jumped in and I just made a suggestion that we add section D, which says this statement of authority does not confer additional authorization to sell property by the president of the board or the director of operations or any other board member in excess of that already stated in Fort Clark Springs Association bylaws, Article 7(1)D. To remove that thing, that this was in some way granting additional authority to the president of the board, the DO, or any other board member. So I specifically added that section to say that this document does not confer additional authority to sell property other than what is already stated in the bylaws, so that we don't have to spend $200 each time we need to have a title transfer done for foreclosure. So.
and how was this done in the past? There shouldn't be, if this is a mandatory letter, or we paid $200 before, did we, or?
I don't think we foreclosed on enough things to really have an issue with it, but I don't know. I wasn't involved at that time.
It looks like our records would show what the last director of operations had for authority to transfer property. Because the bylaws have always given the director of operations the authority to transfer memberships.
This is foreclosures. This is property attached to a membership.
we went out and looked at some of those foreclosure properties, and the ability to get rid of some of these by selling them or transferring them or whatever you want to call it would be something important, I think. But for all of the board members to have to stand on the courthouse steps and do it doesn't make any sense.
Well, this doesn't say anything about buying properties as what foreclosure would be, correct? When you foreclose, you're not selling anything.
Well, you're going to transfer the title of a foreclosed property that's transferred. That's what transfer means. Excuse me, if you transfer it to a new member, say a member wants to buy a foreclosed property, you've got to be able to transfer that from the foreclosure. That's all this has been. We've argued this now for like 2 months. And the question the last 2 times was that the Section B gave the Director of Operations too much authority to sell property. Well, it also gave the President of the Board and 2 other board members in cases of $25,000 or more that seemingly same authority. It's not just the Director of Operations. So I added this to qualify Section B, that it does not give any additional authority to sell Fort-owned properties to anybody else. This is strictly transfer authority for foreclosures. And again, this was written by an attorney.
Well, if you look up the code he refers to, the Business Organization Code, Article 252.005, the whole title of Article 252 is unincorporated, not-for-profit associations.
Okay.
We're incorporated.
But that's not the issue of this,
Yes, that is
Roby,
the
has
issue.
been the authorization to sell property.
No, the issue was that it was never brought in front of the board of directors like it initially said it was. That was the issue to start with, is when did this get passed by the board of directors?
I was there, you were there.
I don't have any
B was
clue or
there.
remember about it, and B doesn't either.
That's why I've suggested in the future, when we do things like this, that there's a section on the bottom of these forms where all board members have to initial that they were present, whether they agreed with it or not,
All resolutions are supposed to be read in front of the membership as well.
and it was.
Well, where are the minutes that prove
Never.
that?
I don't know.
I've looked at all the minutes I've got, and they're not there, nor are they any video recording that I've
It
seen.
was an executive session when you guys passed it and signed it.
You're not supposed to make decisions in executive
They
session.
did
it's
it,
what-
they came out of it.
And announced
They
it.
came out
And
and announced it.
But it's not in the minutes that we ever
We
did
don't
that.
collect minutes in exec session.
It's not on the minutes in the public session when we announced what we did.
Well, then that is the president's fault for not mentioning it at the time, or maybe it wasn't, it's just not in the,
Unfortunately, I am unable to find at the point in time, February and March of 2013, where we came back out of exec session and announced it.
That was my point to start with, is this was never, I don't know that it was ever done in open session anywhere, and it was never read before anybody.
Is it something we want? Is it something we
Yes.
need?
It's probably something that we do have to have, or the title company wouldn't have suggested it.
All right, then
then
let's quit arguing over whether
let's
it
pass
was
it right now.
then or now or whatever, and talk about whether or not it says what we want it to say, whether or not it agrees with the appropriate laws, and pass it again and get it done right.
We need to word it like the title company asked for it to be worded. I'm not sure, where's that document that the title company asked for?
it's in last month's session.
You better not start quoting that 252 because you could get in trouble, because that does not apply to you.
Just says the company requires a certified copy of resolution of the Board of Directors at Fort Clark Springs Association, a corporation, authorizing the current transaction and naming the officers who are designated to execute the necessary documents. The whole thing, you are. And then this is the certificate of resolution to sell real property. This is,
Which,
and
again,
this is signed.
What's
yes,
the date on that?
that's the one
April
that was,
10th,
this is one that was
2013.
supposedly done during the annual meeting last year, and there's no notes or minutes or video that reflects we did that
The
either.
annual meeting was in April, it was in March.
Date of adoption, March 30th.
No, the date of the adoption is on the back where it's
A
signed.
Texas nonprofit corporation duly
Oh,
called
I'm
and held
sorry.
on
I'm sorry.
Saturday,
I'm sorry.
March 30th, 2013.
I'm sorry, you were correct, Roby, I read the wrong date. Dropped it.
There's no annual meeting minutes that reflect that we did this either.
I think Myrna's point is, let's just do it now.
I would agree that we need to do it correctly. If we have to, I mean, I don't understand what just because somebody wrote this down here, I don't know that it satisfies the title company requirements. I don't understand what the title company requirements are exactly.
Our attorney wrote it.
Well, he did a poor job, it would seem to me, because nobody can explain to me why it quotes the wrong section of law.
Is it the wrong section of law? What I
I-
would propose to,
it
this
would-
has been a problem for the past 4 months, how come you've never come in and sat with Brianna and myself and really get to nitty gritty, and we would hammer this out as opposed to hammering out now?
Because it should be done in front of the membership. That's what, it should be done in front of the board members.
But all
It's
your
not a
questions, you
secret
could
meeting
come in and
behind the
ask me.
scenes. If I had time, I probably
2.5
would.
years, you don't have time to come in?
I've been pretty busy.
Okay.
I'm sorry, once again, what Jody is asking for is for someone, if not you, to come in and sit down and figure out what the title company needs and what it doesn't mean that you're doing it behind, because you'll come in again to the membership,
And that-
read it and explain how you got there.
That would be fine, because there's no, what we're presented does not make sense.
It doesn't matter at this point because clearly something has to be done. Let's talk about what to do, not why we didn't do the right thing before. please.
Well, I'm trying to. I would like to know what the actual requirements of the title company are. It says a certified copy of a resolution for the board to sell property.
Again, if I had Rihanna here who came at that last meeting to try to explain all this to you guys, and then again invite you in to sit with her, if I'd have known you had more of these questions, I could have had her here, or she could have set up a meeting with you after hours.
Well, I sent an email asking about the 252 section and I heard no response.
Here's a copy of 252.
Did you include that in one of these?
And it clearly says unincorporated. We're incorporated. There's a difference. That's why the semantics in law make a big difference. Shall and may is a big difference. Unincorporated and incorporated, there's a big difference.
Speaking to the choir, or
Well, then if you're the one that has all these opinions, why didn't we change that? Why didn't you inquire about that when I brought it to everybody's attention?
because I don't recall you bringing it to our attention. Your whole
Well,
emphasis and
nevertheless,
stress was on.
with-
One more time, can
Right,
we
we need to move
please
forward with
start
ordinance.
from now instead of going back and redoing this, please?
We need to
May I
get,
have a question? Excuse me.
yes, ma'am.
When do you determine a piece of property is subject to foreclosure? What do you determine? Is it because they're in arrears on their assessment? Or their
That-
taxes?
No, it's for us, it would be arrears and assessments.
Just an assessment?
Right.
So you would foreclose on the property, the real property, even though they're current on the property?
They also have property taxes usually that are in arrears. So they're gonna get theirs first, whatever happens.
Because,
Well, we won't-
property taxes would be handled by Lombard or the.
Right, if you're behind on your property taxes and current on your assessments, we don't really care. We can't foreclose on anything except behind on assessments.
Okay, so that would be the only time.
Right.
Thank you.
And I would ask you, do you have any idea what what the title company would mean by the statement of authority for the fort?
That's why I'm confused how you would have that authority.
I am
When you
too.
foreclose on a piece of property, you have to, of course, you have to have the legal reason if they're, that's why I asked.
This is just
Are you
for transfer of documents. It's not
still-
it's not the authority to foreclose. That's in the bylaws and that's in the state statutes.
Yes, ma'am,
This
and
is,
that's what I was asking. If you can answer this, on foreclosure, what do you determine which properties are subject to foreclosure? When would you decide that a piece of property would be subject to foreclosure? Ms. Hagan, since you mentioned,
no, I'm just telling you, I'm not coming in that, I'm coming in, this document is just authorizing specific people to actually sign the documents
Yes, ma'am.
for the title company
Once it's
that,
Yes, ma'am.
once it's foreclosed on.
exactly, but what I was asking is when do you determine that you will foreclose?
What's your procedure for foreclosure? is what
Let's-
you-
I would invite you into our office and make an appointment. We can sit
Well,
down
that'd
at
be
that point
great.
in time, and we'll educate you to the
No,
nth
I'm
degree.
educated.
So
I
maybe
have
we
some
should get back to the
questions.
items at hand.
I'd like to meet with you.
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
We can, your head will spin when you walk out of the office.
So
Yeah.
I'll call Monday instead of.
Absolutely, with
Thank you.
Rihanna.
Okay.
Thank
What the
you.
title company is needing is strictly when you foreclose on a property, somebody has to sign that title. It's going back to Fort Clark Springs. Somebody has to represent Fort Clark on these documents that you're taking that property back is what you're doing. And somebody has to sign that. It can be you, it can be B, it can be Myrna, it can be Jody. If you want to take off of work and do that on foreclosure day, that's your right too, but you have to have somebody named at the title company. So when it's done through the title company and on your document, they know whose signature is supposed to be on that piece of paper.
And I can understand that, but it shouldn't say in here the word sale. But anyway, Margaret was right. We need to get back to what we're trying to figure out here.
Previously, you asked who done it. Well, previously, Linda O'Brien was the collection person. And Ron Stewart was the director of operations at the time. And he was the one, previous to that, I don't know how long it had been since any foreclosures had taken place. But people were tired of people not paying up, and that's when they decided, the board decided to start the foreclosure process again. Some of them are delinquent, they're dilapidated, they're falling down.
Yeah,
they're losing to other
that's
people.
what you really, when you go around to look at some of these, they're probably, somebody's gonna get hurt.
But previously, it was was the Director of Operations and Collections that went to the courthouse and done these procedures.
Garland, you had something?
I was gonna say, when I came on the board, we go on range on to start up the collection process again, because in the past, it got so bad, we got $1.2 million in delinquent debt. And that's what the debts we're talking about.
I make a motion, we table this until we can get the language that we want, until we can get the accurate law, whatever. I just table this and stop working it around, please.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion?
God, I hope not.
Say, I've been thinking, while you people have been arguing about this thing, and if you people at the board, all of you sitting up there that can't read and understand the English in that document, then God help all of us.
Oh, Jesus.
That's all I got to say.
I would agree.
Cancel the thing and be done with
This
it.
is the man who.
That's all it takes.
All those in favor of tabling this motion until the language is correctly presented to the board? In favor? All voting and unanimous.
Just to get the signature.
And on that too, I would like to see this other one, how we, the motion where we sold that property. I would like to see the documents where we did what it said. I would like to see the documentation that proves that we did do that on March 30th at the annual meeting. Because we sold the property worth several $1,000s. And I'm sure we did. The certificate of resolution to sell real property, dated April 5th. And it's a last month's deal. I don't ever remember that happening. And it was signed and notarized, but it says that we convened at the March 30th meeting and acted on it. We adopted this resolution. The documents on the website, discussion on that. My comments here were we need all the documents on the website that govern Fort Clark Springs. All of them.
What's missing?
Our articles of incorporation,
They're on there.
they are today?
Yeah.
Okay. I looked.
There's a list.
They've been on there.
There's a
The-
list, Roby. Did you read it?
Yes, and I don't find any of the current ones. I have a copy. What is the latest declaration that we have notarized?
The one that's on file at the courthouse.
Okay, and then I can't find another one between the one that was notarized in, what, 2011? Where's the next one that was ever notarized? How did we get to that?
You don't have an extra one. That is it.
Well, I don't know what you're asking. I don't. and
Well,
was
I'm
it
asking-
in 2011? I don't remember.
No, but there should be documentation. I know you wouldn't be remembered, I wouldn't either. I mean, it.
That's the latest one.
But the original one was changed considerably to the one we got now, and I can't find anything that it was ever legally changed.
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
No, do I?
the only two declarations I can find that are on the website, that I can find at all, that have been notarized, were one in 1971 and the current one.
For what?
For the declarations and protective restrictions for the Fort Clark Springs Association.
Well, I would think that the only ones that should be on the website were the current governing ones.
Well, then this goes back to proving whether we're an HOA or not.
Well, that goes back long years. You can't put, if you put everything from 1971 on the website, we would need
I don't know that
more storage than we have.
I don't know that it all needs to be on there. The current governing documents do. However, in this document, it says the vote of the membership. And up several years, up into the 80s, it still says a vote of the membership.
Okay, so,
And it was changed to the voting membership. There's a big difference in the amount of people there. The membership is 3,000 people. The voting membership is 1,400. The majority of those two numbers are a big difference.
How do you get that?
What do you mean, how do I get that?
So how's it go back to having a document, you have to go?
How do you get 3,000 and 1,400? There's 3,000 members?
More or less.
So they have the right to vote.
Right.
So what's the problem?
Only 1,400 people vote. That's not even half of the
That
membership.
doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. If people don't vote, they don't send the ballots back, they don't vote.
The
They
decla-
vote for the president. How many people
Wait a
can
minute.
vote in the government?
However-
Millions? How many people vote? Thousands? Does that make it not right?
Yes,
People
more or
don't
less.
want to vote, they don't vote.
To change this declaration, the original one says.
A majority of the membership declaration, at its discretion, the residents of here can amend this declaration if approved by the vote or written consent of a majority of the membership. So if you have 3,000 members, you have to have 1,501 voting for it.
That's only an oral vote at the membership meeting.
No, no.
No, it's a vote or written consent
So
to change the declaration.
I still don't know which declarations you're talking about, so.
All of the people that don't vote, when it's like that, all of the people that don't vote are no votes, because they don't want to change,
What does this have to do with the website?
whether they vote or not.
Wait, this is,
I mean, what does this turn into? You're talking about documentation on the website, now you're getting into clarification of old documents from the declaration.
Right, I just
So-
wanted to make sure, and we talked about some of them, and I see our payment plan and different things like that are on there now.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah,
So that's
the
the end-
Senate
so
Bill
that's it.
507's on there, the chapter link to the 209, all that's there.
Okay, and we have it in our packet here, you included that. But all that, this association was changed to an HOA by an illegal vote of
No,
when it
no,
was
no,
done.
did you look at your,
Yes, it
well, we're gonna
was.
get to that topic item,
Yeah.
where the IRS in 1975 stated that you were an HOA, and for 40 years, you've been filing your 1120 as an HOA, with every auditing firm that's ever served it since 1975, which was in your packet. So.
besides,
But it was done
Let's
wrong.
go back to website documentations.
Well,
The website. as
Roby,
long as we
Roby,
have-
we are-
No, let me answer Jody. As long as we have all the current governing documents on the website, we're fine.
I've been telling you that for month after month.
Well, there are
This is our 4th month.
only more, every month more of them get on there.
By law, you're only supposed to have your bylaws, your declaration, your governing documents. You kept wanting more, yet I think you wanted me to scan in all the resolutions. It's impossible. At some point, you draw the line.
The resolutions that are recorded should be on there, they're part
There's
of the.
over 200 recorded resolutions.
Yes, but the
It's not
resolution,
practical.
the resolutions that change, like the bylaws, the bylaws have different sets of resolutions attached to them. Then one time they adopt all the resolutions and the new current bylaws are the only ones they go by. So all the other ones don't have to be on there because they're included in the new current bylaws.
All of your documentations that we rule ourselves by are on the website.
Well,
Over-
thank you.
Above and beyond. But I guess we forgot about that too for the
No.
past 4 months.
Your latest auditor says that this is a private recreational association.
we'll get to that next.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, discussion of the HOA documentation. If you get a cup of coffee or some water.
It says it doesn't matter what it's called.
Oh, yes, it does. Oh, yes, it does.
Were you calling for a break since you left us?
Oh, yeah, no, we did have to have a break.
It'd be so nice.
Okay.
Yes, break would be nice. Well,
We're gonna
adjourn.
adjourn, it's 10:35, we're gonna adjourn for a short break.
Very short one. I don't either one. Just stand up.
It's 9:45. Oh, 10:45. It's now 10:45 and we're reconvening from our short break. The discussion at present is whether the HOA documentation. My contention is that the votes taken to form us as an HOA, were taken illegally or not correctly. Now, I don't think there was a pre-planned intent to do it. I think it's the way it happened. The only declaration I can find that allows us to, tells us how to vote to change the declaration, not the bylaws, not who's the president, not anything else. It says to amend this declaration, if approved by a vote or written consent of a majority of the membership. So it's the majority of the membership. And even our current, the bylaws that were in effect at the time referred us back to that same documentation. The bylaws are subordinate to the Declaration of Protective Restrictions, all amendments thereto affecting real property described in the fort. And they're referring to the declaration that was filed on the 4th day of October 1971. And this was in 2009. So in 2009, they're still referring to the declaration that was filed originally in 1971.
Where are you finding that?
Well,
You're
that's,
talking about-
I've talked to the Attorney General and the
No,
Secretary.
No, I don't want that. I want what you're talking about currently, 2009. What is that? Where is that?
It's in a copy of the bylaws.
We don't have it then.
No, I have a copy that's
Well,
from 99 to 05.
I'm asking.
Why didn't you disseminate that copy to us before the
can't.
board meeting?
Well, I wanted to discuss this, and
How do you discuss it in front of the rest of us if we don't have a copy?
you can have a copy. Mike, I don't
No,
want
I
to make a
mean
decision.
right now. I want a copy so I know what you're looking at.
It's hard to, it truly is hard to discuss something that we can't see. And whether or not your intentions are good doesn't matter because we can't help it. There's nothing to discuss.
And you've had time to get that to us, right?
That doesn't matter either.
No, I mean,
Well,
just,
my whole contention is I don't want to change anything today. I want to present my side of the argument. Y'all can have all these documents, and I would like some more.
I
that
believe we've voted to table things, haven't we?
Not this.
Not this.
What are we voting on now?
We're not voting on anything. This is for discussion only.
okay.
Anyway, they took a vote, and there was only 1,400 and change on people voting. That wasn't there in March 19th of 2002, and there is a stipulation in the original documents that says nothing could be changed until January 2002. When they created the original declaration, they wanted to protect the fort in the far future, so they couldn't be changed for the membership. They couldn't take away, they couldn't change the amount of real property that we had. We couldn't sell all the lots and only have 5 acres left for recreation. That was the intent, it would appear, of the original declaration, that it couldn't be changed on the grounds, the amount of grounds that were available to the members could not be changed till after 2002. And in 2002, it still refers to the same recorded document in 1971. So I suspect there is not another one. I can't find one. There may be one. We may have one, and I would like to see that. But they took a vote in 2002 at the annual meeting. This is the auditors that audited the election. They did it in March 19th of 2002, and it was received March 30th, 2002 by Shirley Hetzel. There was only 1,475 members voting. I do not have access right now to the amount of members that we had in 2002. However, I suspect there was 3,000 of them like there is today, possibly even more. So a vote to change this fort to an HOA by 1,475 members was not even half of the membership. Not even half of the membership voted in that election. Of that, only 1,100 voted to change it to an HOA. And this was recorded, but none of the other stuff was recorded. So somebody probably did this in error. You can record anything. You can take a ham sandwich out of the courthouse and have it recorded. They don't check down there to see if it's a legal document. They bring it in and they record it. So because it's recorded, doesn't mean that it was done legally, that it was a correct document. It means it's a recorded document. That's why all our bylaws and stuff that we currently use are supposed to have been recorded throughout the years. there should be a recording of every document that we've done to change the bylaws and declaration from the start of the fort. They wouldn't necessarily all be in the bylaws and the declarations now, because once they were adopted and the new bylaws were approved, it would include all the previous amendments. This one, this bylaw that was done in 2009 has several amendments attached to it that they did over the period of years before they actually redid the bylaws. It has it has bylaw changes in 09, 2000, 2002 of them in 3 of them in 2002, 3 in 2004, 05, and 09. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 changes to the bylaws done, and then they rewrote the bylaws to include all those changes. So when the bylaws were rewritten, none of those other documents would be on our website. It would stand to reason that they're not. However, they should be at the courthouse. They should be in our files. Somewheres, if we approved and passed all that, it would be here. So at some point in time, now it says on our declaration that it's the voting membership, not the whole membership. The reason evidently they wrote the declaration being changed by a majority of the membership would make it incredibly difficult to change the declaration. So a board could not do it on a whim. It had to be a majority of the people that own property on this fort to allow for the change in the declaration, because it could affect them drastically. So it had to be a majority of those people on the fort, not just the ones that felt like voting. It had to be a majority of the membership.
That's the reason you put it on the ballot, because you have the right to vote as a member. You put it on a ballot, and that, you're saying that there was only 1,200 people voted. Well, that's not the majority of the people, so none of y'all are legal up there?
No, it's only...
We sold land a couple of years ago, 40 acres or something. It's the people that returned the vote at the time of voting for on that ballot.
The only thing that needs a majority of the membership vote is to change the declaration. Not to vote for officers, not to vote for a free weekend at Coney Island, whatever you want, but to change the declaration. And it specifically states that the provisions restricting membership to bona fide residents of Texas at its discretion to amend this declaration, if approved by a vote or written consent of a majority of the membership. To change the declaration only, do you have to have a majority of the membership?
Of Texas?
Of the residents of the fort, the membership. The membership.
And then all of us members
So
that
you're saying
don't
that
buy
only
into
the
a
people who-
homeowners association
Huh?
can turn
On the
around
fort.
and sue the fort, because we thought we were buying into a homeowners association.
No.
And you have that piece of paper is in all of our documents.
And it's possibly been done, it's possibly not correct. I would like, I always thought we were a homeowners
So what you are
association.
saying is that I can sue the fort
Yes.
No.
for misrepresenting
Sure.
themselves
No.
to me when I bought property on the fort.
No.
Well, on the other side, can sue too, saying we're not HOA.
You're
That-
an HOA. Hang on, what's the point? You're an HOA. The IRS has deemed you an HOA since 1975. If you think you're not an HOA, then how can you set up here and serve on something you do not believe in to the institution?
Right.
Maybe you should step off the board and get a lawyer and sue the board.
I do have a lawyer, and Sandy suggested that, we should get lawyers to prove this.
No,
Well,
no, no,
I
no,
did pay for a lawyer. The board didn't want to agree for all that, and the board cost the fort $5,000 by being belligerent, not wanting to read the bylaws, just like Art said. If we can't read, to seat Sandy, we read that down there, and our position was we should do what the bylaws
You
say.
didn't spend
Wait.
$5,000 on that.
We got a bill from the lawyers for
That was
5
for your
Gs.
stuff because you wanted to do, we'll get into that later.
Not a thing to
But the
do with
point
mine.
is that we had a lawyer, we had Langley Benak 2 months ago write a ruling if you're an HOA or not. Yes, Tully has written a ruling that you're an HOA. The IRS says that you're an HOA. If you do not believe in the institution, then how are we even here governing this?
I don't believe now that I have questions as to whether we are or are not an HOA, and I would like these papers to show us that we are. We don't need a lawyer.
Okay, wait, okay, one thing. Sorry to interrupt, but we're saying the same thing over and over again. Just like we are redesigning our bylaws to make them conform to 209, right now, no matter what our bylaws say, we have to go to 209 first. Because that,
No, you don't.
I let you rant.
Okay, go ahead.
We have to go to 209 first. And then if it isn't in 209, then we can go to our bylaws. If you read this, this amendment to the declaration was to bring the fort under Senate Bill 507. And under Senate Bill 507, we fit the definition of a homeowners association. This was voted on because we have to vote on it. Even if they voted no, it wouldn't have mattered. We still had to operate under Senate Bill 507. It's like years ago, you vote for something that was clearly against the Constitution and you lost. Well, all this is saying is that they're bringing the fort under Senate Bill 507. It doesn't really matter what our declarations say. The effort to do this was to bring it under Senate Bill 507. Senate Bill 507 clearly says, I'm not even talking about the IRS, which defines us, but Senate Bill 507, let's get to it. Chapter 209, Senate Bill 507 clearly says property owners, definition of property owners association or association means incorporated or unincorporated association that is designated as the representative of the owners of the property in a residential subdivision, which it is, has a membership primarily consisting of the owners of the property covered by the dedicatory instrument for the residential subdivision, which it does, manages or regulates the residential subdivision for the benefit of the owners of the property in the residential subdivision. Goes on to say as to the applicability of the chapter. This chapter applies only to a residential subdivision that is subject to restrictions or provisions in a declaration that authorize the property owners association to collect regular or special assessments on all or a majority of the property in the subdivision, requires mandatory membership, and applies to a residential owners association regardless of whether the entity is designated as a homeowners association, a community association, or a similar designation in the restrictions of the dedicatory instrument. So all this did was to bring us under 507. So I don't understand why we're going back to it. Even if the membership wasn't sufficient by your definition, to vote it in, it wouldn't have mattered because we would still be subject to 507 because we fit the definition of 507.
507 is not law.
At the time,
It is.
we weren't.
It is not. It's a Senate bill.
There was a bill at it is not law.
It's mute now.
We don't have to continue arguing.
M-O-O-T, not mute.
Not
We don't have to continue arguing this here. That's my contention, that I would like to see, and surely we have the documents that prove we did vote in these different manners somewhere to approve this stuff. That's all I was asking for.
So you
And I
don't
will
believe-
share you with all this information here. Again, as you're so fond of saying, I'm not a lawyer. Maybe
I'm not either.
the state requires us to be that no matter what.
No.
But I don't understand that it does. It looks like we would still be a not-for-profit residential community, which is what our bylaws do. It's like he said, our auditor referred us to that. And I think the only difference it makes is whether we have to operate under the current HOA book or not. I don't think there's a big difference.
I think it makes more differences because we've been conducting business under a particular set of rules. And even though Mr. Baumann says I can't, I think after I get off the board, I can sue you because you misrepresented the place that I was buying into.
No.
So
I've already talked to a lawyer.
don't,
Yes, we can.
don't shake your head at me. How do you know?
Well, and anybody could sue anybody under auspices.
You
The
can
whole
sue
thing is,
for anything.
I would like to have it proven to us in the membership
How many people
legally.
want it approved? We can get another real estate lawyer if you want, and we keep going in circles for 40 more years.
More money.
Yeah, it'll be expensive to prove this.
Well, I don't believe that our previous,
You have to have Roby address you.
go ahead.
Nothing in your documentation, your deed, or your membership certificate says anything about a homeowners association.
Yes, it does.
Nothing.
Yes, it
Mine
does.
doesn't.
Well, maybe
Your
I
deed
bought
doesn't.
it,
It
maybe
says
I.
Fort Clark Springs Association Incorporated.
Mr. Baumann, I have a question for Mr. Baumann. Why don't you want to be a homeowners association?
Because it's easier, one reason is, it's easier to foreclose under the declaration and the bylaws than it is to foreclose under a homeowners association. They're much more strict.
And they should be, because
There's a pre-existing lien on your property. So the fort under the declaration and the bylaws, can foreclose on a homestead.
All that being said.
That is the only reason that
No,
you're fighting this?
No, because you're going on, you are a corporation. You are not concerned with HOA or Business Organizations Code or anything. You
In other
are
words-
a corporation.
In other words, we are, as you said before, incorporated for recreation purposes.
Yes.
Which means that we ought to be shutting up about the golf course and it losing money and all of the rest of
No,
this.
no.
No, I disagree. I think we should be assessing for that
It has nothing to do with
particular
that.
thing.
You are a corporation.
I will share all
You
the
should be
documents I
conducting
have.
business as a corporation.
I will share all the documents I've got with everybody here.
Can we not put this
I
on the
would
agenda?
like to find out, other than somebody said last week we're an HOA, we need to have the paper trail from the inception till now that proves that we have it. And it should be easy to find. I mean, it should not be difficult to find. We should have those documents. We should have the resolutions and the bylaw changes.
Who are you asking to find those things?
Staff.
I think
No.
you need a lawyer. I really do.
We already have, and Roby, you agreed to the attorney, and so don't put it off on me. In fact, if I remember correctly, you suggested we go ahead. We voted on it right here. It was a unanimous vote to send this question to our Ford attorney, and we did that. We got a response.
That was exactly the same as the attorney I hired produced.
You know, and that really.
Which is exactly the same response
That is-
as we, as board members, read over the bylaws, and it says here that if you don't do it by this time, then the next individual should be appointed. And everybody fought that until the last minute. They fought it when your only attorney was here.
We weren't fighting it. We wanted a clarification. Roby,
but
the
we're-
fact that you brought a personal attorney to the board meeting only puts the nature of conflict of interest to fore. So, I mean, I think that we did what we needed to do as an association. We got an attorney's opinion. He quotes his sources. It's presented here, and I think we need to let this drop.
Well, I disagree, and the attorney had to revise his opinion in there over the
That was-
officers because he wasn't familiar with all the bylaws. I'm not saying the attorney did a bad job, he just didn't do a thorough job, and we didn't request him to.
Yeah, that's fine.
So this was for discussion
I invite
only.
you to come to the files with me, sir. Did you read the IRS form? I don't know how much more clear you can get. I can give you the 11-page document on that one.
I guess
Anytime
they-
you want to come in, I'll be more than happy to
I
sit
guess-
with you in the records room.
Okay, I guess the IRS has never made a mistake in their life, have they?
For 40 years. Oh my God. There's
Let's
no
not-
God either, is there?
Let's not go,
Okay, let's go to our next.
That's our
We
religion.
need to go back to every resolution and every vote and everything else from inception to today.
No, you
But
don't.
only-
Everything you've done is probably wrong.
Only in reference to changing the declaration.
No, you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
There is, it's decide whether we're an HOA or
On
not.
an HOA, then every member here on the board doesn't have to pay their assessments.
Yes, they
Yes,
do.
they do.
No, they don't.
Yes.
Made a contract.
Yes, you do, Darwin.
Okay, let's go on from this, because this was a discussion.
This is turning into a town hall meeting, and it is
This
a
is
board
how you
meeting.
like it. Let's keep going.
Go ahead, one more.
One thing, you don't have to go all the way back to 1971, because when Nat Mendelson was here, he was the developer, he held 4,000 votes. So every vote that was taken up until 1986, when he died, he could inject votes into it to make a majority of the membership.
That's correct, right. Okay, we're gonna move on to discussion of workshops and the budget.
Monday, right? 6:30.
Yes. Do we have,
Seriously? Monday?
do we have, now without that being posted, do we have the right amount of time in there?
I would like to see.
What's a workshop?
For the board,
The board workshop, or is it going to be the public?
board work, should be a board workshop.
There is no public workshop, is there?
No, it's a board workshop. It's a work.
The board met first to discuss changes and whatever, and then presented it to the membership later.
That's what we need to do now.
That's what we wish to do now?
Yes,
Yeah, we're having a workshop.
Board
Monday night.
members only to discuss the budget?
yes.
Can we do that? Do we have to, because it's a meeting of the board, do we have to?
We're not doing any business other than.
We're not taking a vote. We're not doing anything like that.
We'll discuss it, put it together.
You can let them know when we're meeting, but
Well,
it's
what is-
closed.
Today is Saturday, Sunday, Monday. If we do it Monday, at what time?
6:30, because you can't get there before then.
I got jury duty Monday, so hopefully I'll be out of jury duty. If we post it today, that'll be sufficient notice, correct?
Are you asking an open meeting or?
No.
No, any meeting of the board, that's what I'm asking. Is not any meeting of the board required to give
Well,
notice?
it isn't a business meeting.
I would say it's a workshop, we don't have to.
It isn't a business meeting,
We're
it's
just
kind of
holding.
like the
Insurance?
insurance, yeah.
Would you agree with that, B?
Yeah.
Okay, then I guess we're all in agreement that we're not gonna post on the marquee or on the internet that the board is gonna convene on Monday, the 18th at 6:30 for a budget workshop where nothing will be discussed other than the budget and no decisions will be made.
Right. Just workshop. We just received it, we're just now looking over it, and we'll talk about it on Monday.
And then a workshop with the members can be set.
Right.
But right now, it just needs to be the board to discuss.
Yeah, we won't get anything done.
Okay, moving on to tax office to collect assessments. This is for discussion. And I suggested that we check with the tax office to collect our assessments and mail out our assessment notices and also handle our foreclosure process. Because they do that now for themselves and they do it for the other end. They mail out notices and collect monies and distribute them to other entities in town, in the county. That is in fact their real job.
You
Is
did
they,
not mention the foreclosures part.
well, they also handle
But
that.
what, you know, you come up with these things and I'm blindsided because I didn't know you were gonna talk about this now. Talking about the assessments, that's one thing. Talking about foreclosures, that's another thing. Well, I don't have any basis for discussion, but because I didn't have any advance notice that that's what we were discussing.
And I have no particulars, that's why I would like staff, I think the board should direct staff to talk to the tax assessor's office and see what the procedures would be, how much they would charge us to do that, and if it would be beneficial to us or not, and bring that information back before the board.
Have you asked staff what our procedures are and how much it costs us for that one person that does this? Have you had, that you know are you talking about monthly assessments?
Yes,
Because we don't bill monthly, sir.
They don't bill monthly.
Yes, they do.
No, we do not. No, we do not. No, we do not. There's
Bill
nobody
once a
sitting
year.
behind a chair sitting on a bill monthly. We collect, and Renee collects on an average $11,000 to $12,000 a month, and she does CCNRs, and she's architectural. So maybe we should discuss how much her salary is and see how much little it costs us. So maybe, again, I invite you in to come meet with my staff and see the daily operations.
No matter what it costs us, we'd like to know how much it would cost us from the
Why
tax
our system
office.
already works.
Why? We
Why?
don't bill
Point of
monthly.
changing it.
What are you gonna have the tax office do?
They can bill monthly, they can bill
We
yearly,
don't
they
bill
can bill it
monthly.
all. They don't bill the taxes monthly either. They send out a notice once a
We
year.
don't do that. We do annually. Rihanna sends out coupons.
That's
We
what
have
once a
it.
year would be, would it not annually?
We're already gonna send it out, but you still, staff is stuff to produce the documentation to send to a third party. What do they know?
They have all our information already.
No, they do not.
You don't get a tax bill.
We get a tax bill, but
Well,
we still have
they-
to create a membership list to them.
They know with a membership list.
Really?
Okay, wait, I have a question. What's the purpose of this?
You must have contacted the tax office yourself then.
I've talked to them briefly about it and it said it's available to do. However, I do not know the particulars and I do not know all the questions everybody else would ask or want to know.
Do they send a tax bill to a guy in Chicago who wants to remember?
Why would you change a system if you, I love how you can go and talk to other people, but you can't come talking to see what your company does.
Well, that's what we're doing now.
You are? Do you come in and see the daily operations? Who's our accounting person?
I assume it's
Who's our
Carla, but I don't,
Who does
that's,
collections?
I'm not supposed to be micromanaging and being
Who's
the
collections?
The whole
Wait,
thing is,
stop.
I would
Stop.
like,
Wait.
I would like the fort to ask the tax office if they can do this and how much they would charge us.
And vote on it.
I actually disagree with that. I don't understand, why do you want to do it? What is the purpose of taking what's been working and outsourcing it somewhere else? You complained because we were spending $30 a month on email service. This is going to cost us
I
considerably
didn't complain
more.
about spending any money, I asked why we did it.
That's,
That's a difference than complaining.
okay. Well, it's not quite what happened. But anyway, at any rate, why,
the
okay,
point? I
yeah,
don't
what's the
understand.
point? Why do you want to do this?
The point is possibly it's cheaper and more efficient.
Do you know how much it costs us now for the staff member?
No, how much does it cost?
I can't disclose that, we'll have to do an exec session, because it's a salary.
Well, how much does our total foreclosure, our total billing, all this process cost?
Really, the mail out, the once a year mail out's $1,500 in postage. To get the coupons printed, I think it was $1,300 you spend annually. Other than that, it's whatever, when we send out the 30-day notice that you're delinquent, or your 60-day or your 90-day.
And you've got the issue of members who pay by credit card or pay by automatic withdrawal from their bank account, whether they want the county, whether they want to shift that to the county, which you would have to do.
And the county did
So-
say, because Rihanna did go in and speak the other day, because we're blindsided by these things, but anyway.
I was asking for something being blindsided. Do I need to ask you permission?
Let her finish.
Why don't you come in and talk to me and say, well, see, hey Jody, what is our process for collections? What is our process
I haven't
for?
got an email answer from any question I've asked you, and I don't know when.
I get, okay.
So go on, let's,
I would
This was
invite
for
you
the-
to come in again. For 2.5 years, I've invited you in.
Okay, Roby, explain to us what you're trying to accomplish by this.
to be more efficient and cost effective.
But we're
And you
efficient.
also, we are efficient and we are cost effective. Your point.
Where's the line that says cost efficient?
The
Well, I
point,
don't-
the point you made to us in an email was the fact that you were looking to reduce staff by at least one person to do this, and you said that. Now,
We possibly could reduce
And-
staff. I don't know how many people are involved in all this.
You know, we're-
They could do something else.
our staff is running tight now. I mean, they've got more than they can handle. And if the purpose of this is to slide under the ACA requirement as far as hours, it's probably not a good thing to do.
You're equating this with healthcare.
You equated it with
You
healthcare.
I said plainly, I think the fort should offer its employees affordable healthcare.
But now you're talking about reducing staff.
So that we can get under the radar.
Where
Yes,
does,
he did
where
in
does
emails.
offering affordable
I know
healthcare,
the Fab 15 are on those emails.
affordable healthcare have to do with reducing staff? Whether we need to reduce staff or not doesn't have a thing to apply to
Okay.
staff that we have with healthcare. But
I'm
none of that
sorry.
has anything to do with this, and this was to see if we could get something out of our hands and somebody else do it at a better rate than we're paying.
But you don't even
That
know
was
what
it.
we're paying. Why wouldn't you come on our side and see what we're doing first off?
Why do you want to argue?
You are.
No, I suggested that we direct staff to find out what it would cost and if they can do it.
I guess vote on it to see if the board as a whole would like for me to go seek out an answer from the tax assessor.
That's exactly what this was for.
Okay, great.
There was discussion over to do it.
Yes, call for a vote.
No, there's no vote on it, it was discussion. That's the way you put it down there.
That's the way you put it on the email.
That is your agenda item, Roby.
Yes. I wanted to discuss it and find out if the board would be available to entertain that idea.
I'm not amenable to it,
No, I'm
no.
not.
Well, it doesn't matter because we can't vote on it, it's a discussion item.
Mhm.
Okay. So we'll move on to, unless there's any more discussion,
No.
then we'll move on to the 15-minute member discussion period.
Why is everything an argument?
The first person is Art Baker on finance.
First thing I'm gonna tell you is that I'm not a bookkeeper or an accountant. But I know a lot about the finances. I know a lot about auditing. I'm gonna tell you some of the things that are wrong with last year's financial statement and audit. Okay, on page 3, those of you who have a financial statement or audit, you started at $596,242. That's what Jody said we started with. On page 5, at the end of the audit,
Maybe we could get copies.
It says that cash at the beginning of the year was $472,027. That's about $127,000 more at the beginning than Jody said that we had, if you believe the auditor.
I didn't know it was in there. I haven't been on this one.
There's
I don't know.
2 or 3 different things in here. One thing is that Jody liked about 11 entities making a financial report to the auditors. In other words, an entity is things that's smaller, but it's the same weight. It should be carried on the financial statement, and it wasn't. Here is one of the deals. The impound fund put $44,011 in the general fund, but they didn't take it out of the impound fund. They didn't take it out of anything. It's just free cash went to the general fund, $44,011.
No.
Down below, they put in $42,011 in the impound fund. I didn't say where it came from, anything. They just put it in there. That makes $88,022. Sky, I guess you'd call it.
Mr. Baker?
Yeah.
I think these are things that we need to really, because Jody didn't do that. I mean, the auditors did that. Now, they got information from Jody, but she didn't create that report. So we really, and I've been wanting to do that, is get the auditors to come by and explain their financial statement to the members. But I don't think Jody is, I'm not prepared to answer questions about that because I've got questions about it myself.
I don't want to answer any questions. I just taking this right out of there. I mean, that's all I'm doing.
Okay.
And that's not near all of it. One place in here was the amount of money and the let's see where to find it. I've marked on mine so much I can't find it sometimes, but it says restricted current assets, and it gives the information on all of this of $706,033, and then you take away everything else. This is equipment. You take away everything else, and it amounted to $1,904,154. Okay, on the next page over here, the same thing, identical thing. It's wrong.
Yes.
And it doesn't show where 4,000, I think it was $4,002 and something cents. Came from someplace. We don't know where it came from, but it was never entered in here, and the 2 figures are identical except that. Yet the total down here is the same. So the mistake is, or 4,000 or something dollars just came up, and to make the total right, but the total underneath this column is wrong.
We'll have to kind of cut that there, and then we need to get the auditors to address those questions and explain to us how they did their bookkeeping, so.
Well, that's right, but this is wrong, and there's no use letting it go unless you point it out, and then that's just a little stuff.
Okay, well, we'll try to get the auditors down here. Well, we've kind of run out of time here, so I hate to cut you off, but.
Okay, I'm gonna do it if you'll just wait a minute. Okay. She started the new column, eliminations. What is eliminations? And I asked my CPA accountant what eliminations meant in accounting. He says it doesn't mean anything. And never used. You don't eliminate anything in accounting. Everything has got a place. So, under eliminations, she didn't have any money in elimination column. That's on page 13. It's all the way back on page 13.
What?
She didn't have any money in eliminations, yet she took out $187,416 and put it over here under unrestricted current assets. She put it in the Fort Clark Springs asset column.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're kind of running out. And those are questions that we need to ask the auditors, and we need to get him there to explain our audit to us. I need to get the auditors down here to explain the audit to us and answer those questions.
Well, I'd like to explain that you couldn't.
Right.
But I'm telling you what it is right now on this and this, and she was the one that made this.
Well, no,
Not the auditors.
No, the auditors created that report.
The auditors didn't make this.
Yes, they did. Yeah. They used our books to do it, but.
If they did, they sure made a lot of big mistakes.
Well,
Okay.
thank you, and I'm gonna have to cut you short here.
I'm sorry that you don't want me to give the members about $400,000 that's missing if you add all these up.
We do, but we need to have the auditors
Sorry
come down
about that.
and explain that to us. But thank you very much.
It's been about 4 months trying to get this, done, and I haven't done it yet. So I guess I'll have to write a letter to the editor explaining the rest of it, huh?
Well, we'll try and get the auditors down here so we can have them address it and show us where the eliminations came from and went to and how it worked out.
If he can.
Thank you.
That's right.
The next person is Dean Bowman.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir.
There's one thing that everybody in this room is losing sight of. This is a corporation. You are the board members of a corporation. Your sworn duty is to go by the articles of incorporation, the declaration, and the bylaws. It is not to interpret law, whether we are under the BOC or under the homeowners code. That is not your job. Your job is to deliberate on those 3 items only.
Thank you. Ms. Watkinson, Allison Watkinson.
I'm addressing as a member in good standing, but I know it's going to come up in community council. So what I'd like to do is I would like to have the board consider adding, signing out a key for the activity/teen center as well to the membership. And the reason for doing this is that until the adult center, the floor and the space is made available for a safe place for line dancing, aerobics, any other member-led for free activity that benefits members of the fort, that they are able to use the activity center and the teen center. So if you all would consider adding that key as one that can be checked out in addition to the adult center and the green room, that would be great. If we can get it done before our Winter Texans come back, because they are the ones who take who take part in these activities. And while they're Winter Texans, most of our Winter Texans that we're talking about are actual property owners. So they are paying their monthly assessments, not family membership fees. And yet we get the benefit of no trash pickup from those homes while they're gone. And security does have to make a few more runs and things. But I'd like to see this added just until the time that the adult center floor and space is ready for these other activities.
Thank you.
Security would open those buildings for everybody.
I think if we didn't actually add the teen center at that time, but that was the intent later on. We just didn't have people here, organized groups really using that, but I think we need to address that.
One day,
There's a,
avoid the key situation.
There's somebody here wants to speak about official websites, and I can't read their
Yeah,
name.
that's why you scribble in Sanskrit, the language du jour. Okay, official websites. Hurry up and get that thing passed on titles. I just bought Fort Clark Springs on eBay for $1. Now you're in trouble. So you go on any Bing and you see who's officially Fort Clark and who's speaking for us and who's this, that, and the other. Let's trim that list down. Anybody can throw up and say, I'm Fort Clark, this, that, or the other thing on Facebook to other entities. And links from websites to another are dangerous. I hope that that's issues addressed, whether they want to send up a link to say this is us, or whether it goes out is another. Which leads into the second line on that, it's called pseudo entities. So who is officially allowed to set up a website referencing we are the official something something of Fort Clark Springs? Is it the Fort Clark with the old logo on it, Fort Clark Hysterical Pseudo Corporation Fun-Loving Drinking Buddies Are Us Club? Or is this an actual Fort Clark entity speaking on behalf of Fort Clark? Collections for people collecting money for Fort Clark. You can see little Fort Clark dog park stickers and things around here. Put your little money in, and maybe it'll go buy something in a jar down the line for a doggy park. Those are still floating around here. Why are we still collecting money on that? And can anyone just throw up a Fort Clark are us? I said, I'm scrolling back on Bing. I saw on eBay, Fort Clark for sale, $1 membership. How many people are out there selling their memberships? I don't know. Who's our official website, and can we put up on that, our website, the only official website of Fort Clark Springs? Thank you. Don't let anybody else do our talking for us, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
We have Garland Young.
I was going to talk about the tax office collection assessments. Yes, we have the tax office has a right to collect our assessments. What they don't have the right to do is foreclose on land that people are in delinquency in our assessments. They can foreclose on taxes, but they can't take any of the other process. And that's all I have to say about that. How much it costs? I've talked to a couple people that sit on the board and said the tax office can charge us as much as they want to because we're not a taxing entity. The other thing I have to talk about is emails that came into my hands and stuff. And I know I'm talking to every one of the board members here. When you took the oath of office, you was elevated to a higher standard of etiquette. And we have people out there, I want to thank the board for giving Jody a raise. We have people out there that got an illegal copy of Jody's contract. Joe Williams is who I'm talking about. And he said that the board give Jody up to an $80,000 raise.
She heard it.
I got the email in my hand. And what I'm saying is, to me, when you're sitting on the board and you have a member sending out copies of emails and to the board members and to people in the members of the board with false information, I think that that member should be admonished by the board because he's not doing us any good. He's making us look bad. He's making you guys look bad. He's putting out false information. It's getting in hands where it's circulating, and that's not what this community is about. And I think that he should be publicly admonished by the board because every one of you guys got a copy of that memorandum. And I think this type of email conversing with the members of the board and the public has to stop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Woody Hornberg.
I did.
get into freedom of speech.
I want to thank Jody for addressing the problem I'm about to bring about. On August the 3rd through the 10th, for the first time in 20 years, it's the first time ever I have ever seen the bulletin board blank, with the exception of bingo resumes in September. We should have activities. We have visitors, well, they're not visitors, they are members who don't live here that have been here and said, what's going on? There's nothing going on. There used to be so many activities. Well, we have a person who's in charge of events. If it's too much for them to plan activities, then we need someone that can hire somebody additionally. But we do need activities. How can we expect to attract people as a recreational association unless we have activities? The last thing to go was our potluck. And we thought that would go on forever. And they said, well, it's because Shirley Hanson's not here. Well, who is responsible for hiring people to plan activities? So we must have activities if we want people to come here and enjoy it. It used to be one thing right after another. So that is my concern, is that we try to attract keep our people who are here, who are members, with things to do that are constructive, and the potlucks, the fish fries we used to have, and the recreational committee used to handle that under our director of activities, which was Harold Floyd. But we don't have a Harold Floyd, but we need somebody that will take on that responsibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But it takes a recreational committee, and there's nobody popping up on the doorsteps to do these events, because they were mistreated and abused for everything they've done, and you don't even have a recreational committee, which is nothing but volunteers in there.
But Debbie, what are their names, the husband and wife team that were doing
The Griswolds?
Yes, the Griswolds told me that they went in there to the service center one day, and all of their equipment was laying in the middle of the floor. And that's how they found me out, that there was no one talking about.
I went with my.
There were 8 to 10 people on it back when I was on it. I'm just saying, you gotta have volunteers to do the work.
They were doing it. They were going in to do it. They were going to put potluck, and all of their equipment was moved in the middle of the floor, and they were told it was done.
What happened to the potluck? Does anybody know?
The volunteers stopped, there was no volunteers wanting to hold it.
Well, why
Not
didn't
the
the
Griswolds.
administration take over? I mean, they're in charge.
Administration, your employees have had set hours of the deal. Do you think they're gonna give up every single minute of their day? The employees can't continue to do.
Debbie, the
Well, we
Griswolds
need to
were
move on to
gonna do it. They were
executive
going in there to do it. Come talk to them.
I'll talk to them.
Yeah.
But I've been on that committee, and I've worked tirelessly.
I think the
on it.
problem in that case was where it was being held and how few people were attending, so to find, well, I understand. The last one I went to was a pretty small bunch of people. The thing is that we're talking in the middle of summer, and boy, I don't want to do anything from August 3rd through the 10th, so I don't know about the rest of you.
We had
But
activities all through the summer, all through the year.
I understand that,
But Berta, there were no potluck starting back in September or October.
and I understand that too. I think the venue could be changed easily to the adult center, doesn't, it's possible. Other things are possible. It's just that, It's just that I think the service center was the problem. Service,
No, it
whatever,
wasn't.
the service club.
Because
I
you got
don't
the-
know.
You got the stove and everything there, that's not the problem.
Shouldn't be a problem.
But the
I,
recreation was a board-appointed committee, and if you don't have nobody want to work the committee, it's hard to do anything. I don't know about the statement.
Yeah, talk to Griswold.
But I know I have been on that committee.
I've been on that committee.
It's entirely.
are you volunteering to be on that committee?
I'm so busy. Yes, I am.
All
We
right.
have plans.
Well, maybe
You
we can
heard that.
reinstate the committee at the next board.
Well, it looks like we have to figure out a way to start a recreation or potluck supper committee anyway here.
I think a recreation committee would be wonderful.
Wish you could make it for lunch, I'll be done.
One thing I wanted to add, and I meant to ask when we had the insurance qualification, is if we could get a statement of limitations and exclusions for our policies. Is that something the board could get? Just, we don't need the whole insurance thing, just what's limited and excluded on each policy, what coverages are, like he did mention something the other day about asbestos and lead. If
Okay,
there's more to that.
You want the actual, you want, yeah, no, the certificate or the deck sheet is simply the summary of what's in the policy. He wants the actual policy language. And in a commercial policy, it's going to be a lot, but maybe we can select just those particular policies that we're interested in those types of things.
Right, and I had commercial insurance on my vehicles until recently, and there was always at the back, one of the back pages of the thing, it had limitations
Right.
and exclusions over each coverage.
Right.
You didn't have to have the whole policy, it was just, it just limited and excluded.
I don't have a commercial license and I still have.
Okay, Roby, since insurance is my background, I will work with Jody and Warren to get the actual policy document for the board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next item is executive session. Do we have a motion and a vote on that?
Just make a motion to go on executive session.
Yeah, you don't need a
You didn't
motion.
sign up, Dan.
I just have a quick, simple question. I apologize for not having signed up. But the question was asked to Mr. Baumann why he didn't want to be an HOA. And I'm just curious, just for information, just asking, why do some of you want us to be an HOA? Why do we want to be an HOA?
Well,
What's the advantage?
And I have no quarrel with either one. I'd just like to have it set out that this is what we are, and we could put it to rest and go forward and align our bylaws and declarations with whatever form we are, and have the rule of law prove what we are. That's it.
Yeah, thank you.
I would move that we both go to executive session for personnel and foreclosures.
okay.
Do we have a second and a vote?
We don't have to.
Go on executive session.
You adjourn into executive session.
We're adjourning to executive session.
Does anybody?
Adjourn to executive session at
Whether I want to or not, I still don't do it.
Okay, the board has decided to go to executive session over personnel and foreclosures at 11:40, 11:38.
Where's Ed? There's nothing.
Thank you. I haven't figured out how to scan things without really printing it. Last time I tried to work it, I lost a program, so. Used to be really computer savvy, but since I quit work 4 years ago.
You have to remember when you start dealing with people of a certain age, that's some breaks are necessary.
I'm that age too.
You can't just bypass them.
I know.
Is Patty Doggle still the first one?
She is stepping down, she retired on this.
She's still gonna work, but she's not
But she's
manager.
gonna work the weekends as far as I know.
Oh, so she's still gonna be an employee?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And she'll help on weekends is when we have our tournaments, so.
Well, I only got the impression that that was the.
It's just
And they
recent.
printed that out before.
Yeah, right, that's why I was asking. That's what I was asking.
And I missed what you're asking.
He's asking if Pat Hidalgo is still working at the pro shop.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
First time I looked at that, I thought,
Yeah.
this is awkward.
I was trying to figure out what BOH meant.
I know we lost Dave somewhere.
Yeah, that's what, yeah, I know, instead of, when I first saw it, I said, what is BOH and FOH?
Oh, I would have to think about that one.
Front of
too.
house and back of house. No, it's stated in the details, but I just, when I first saw that, I said,
It's hard to fit all that in there.
what is that? It's like BFF, what does that mean?
Has been.
Well, I mean, but I'm just saying,
You know?
you know what it is, yes, but I'm just saying.
I don't use any
But
of
when
those,
you
I
see
take
that,
that out.
you know.
I was trying to sell membership.
Well, did you get it?
Hospital, I guess. Got a hospital group over here tonight.
I thought he was gonna say just got down the drain.
On the golf course?
It's swimming pool.
At those.
Wedding tonight.
Hallelujah.
I need to drink wine.
It is 1:58 on the 18th. The board has reconvened in open session after executive session. We discussed in considerable length personnel issues and foreclosure and directed the staff to move forward on both the personnel issue and the foreclosure process. That was the extent of our executive session.
Although you couldn't tell by the time it elapsed.
Do we have a motion to adjourn? Any more business brought before the?
I move we adjourn.
And a motion made by Myrna Castle and
Seconded.
seconded by Bill Herman. All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor?
Two
The
hands.
motion carries unanimously. This meeting is adjourned. The next meeting, I didn't bring a calendar. September 20th at 9 a.m. 2014 in the boardroom will be the next regular Board of Directors meeting. There will also be a board workshop on the budget Monday, the 18th at 6:30 p.m. in the Director of Operations office.